I hope the camera stops fucking up every time I try to record a fucking video, man. This is the final audio E1000, which is the next like one of the budget final audio lineup, which I was going to make all of them, a video of all of them. This is the final E3K. I made the video about this before. The final E2K, which is the best out of all of them. If you haven't watched the video, go watch it. And this is the final E500, which I haven't made a video on this, which I'm gonna make after I made this video. So yeah, the E1000. By the way, I'm gonna compare them with all of these. So I'm also gonna compare them with the Blonde Freeze, the T2s, the SSR, and the KZZS10 Pros, and the Sony MH755. I didn't compare the MH755 against these two because of that price range jump is a bit too much. Though the E1000 is at roughly $30, and a modded MH755 is also about $20, I guess. If you get these recabled, you'll probably be looking at the price of $20 to $30 or something, like 15 to 30. That's usually the range, depending on what kind of cables are you using. So yeah, TLDR, it's very natural sounding, very neutral tuning, non-offensive anyway, or how nothing is boosted, everything is just flat. The mid-range is kind of thin. I would prefer them to be a bit more warmer than what they are currently. The technical aspect is also not very good, though I would expect this as a true natural sounding basic, absolutely nothing is accentuated IM, budget IM, which is really needed for this price range, though you already have the T2s, but that's about $20 more expensive than this one, which in the budget range is quite a significant price jump. Almost twice the price as the E1000. They sound very similar, though I prefer the T2s, and I'm going to explain that why later. That's basically the TLDR. Okay, for the build quality, the build quality here is not that excellent. It's bad, it's crap, it's shit. Okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or anything. This is for 2020. This is unacceptable. The cable's pretty jank. It's pretty shit. It's pretty cheap feeling. There are no NO strain relief here between the IM's housing, and this thing is loose. I don't know if you can see it from the camera. This thing is loose. Like, seriously, I can just give it a little bit of tug and it will just like snap off. It feels like that. I haven't seen pictures of them like snapping off, or the plastic, the full plastic housing cracking or anything. I don't have a lot of confidence in their integrity, their build integrity. The only thing good about the build is the ear tips, and that's like the accessories. The final ear tips are also always very phenomenal for any kind of ear tips, not just like free. You get stock ear tips free from IMs. This is one of the best stock ear tips. It's like the Sony hybrid, but like a bit more harder, I guess, a bit more thicker, a bit more longer and taller in height. Yeah, and it also have quite a little bit bigger bore size than the Sony hybrid ear tips. So yeah, that's the build quality. For the sound quality, the bass region is not boosted nor accentuated in any way, any place at all. It's very flat, very natural sounding bass. It's not, I know the term natural is very controversial, but by me saying it's natural, it means it's not boosted in any shape or form. So yeah, it's just go straight and kind of roll off very, very slowly at the sub bass region. The extension is not very good. It's definitely not the best extension in the budget final audio lineup. It's actually the worst. If only for extension, it's not very notable. The dynamics is also disappointing. It's not very good dynamics. The texture is okay. The speed is actually pretty good. The tax of the bass here is actually pretty good, though it lacks that kick and slam like anywhere. Like it sound very thin, very, very thin sounding. It has smaller bass than the Tinty 2s. I have quality control issues with Final Audio Design IV. This is actually my third unit, my third E1K unit. The other two units just don't have bass, just like under 100, nothing but static. It's bad, like bad QC with the Final Audio Design. So I don't really have that full confidence, especially in the cheaper model like the E lineup. I also heard a lot of people have like channel imbalances in the E3Ks. So yeah, this is actually Jason's unit. I've been comparing my previous E1Ks with this unit. This is the closest at the margin, and it's at like at the margin of the difference at the margin of unit variance. Like I could say that the difference between this E1K is due to the unit variance, so it's acceptable, I guess. Though the other two was like terrible. I don't even know that these two is actually what all of you are getting. That's what suck. And this is a Japanese company. Like fuck, man. I get it if it's like a shitty ass like unknown Chinese company, Chinese brand, but I would expect a bit more integrity from a well-known Japanese company like Final Audio Design. So as it has been in the game for quite some time. I'm not being racist or something, it's just the fact. Like usually Chinese companies like KZ's, Blonde, and Tin Hi-Fi's like have shitty, absolute garbage quality control. They're like Japanese company like Sony, or like what do you call that? Like that's also Sony. Iowa is also Sony. I don't know a lot of companies from Japan. Oh yeah, In Time, Ocharaku. In Nintendo, they usually have a very solid quality control to their gadgets, to their technologies. Yeah. So yeah, I would expect much more. Though this unit's bass is not very well extended, especially at the sub bass. You can hear a bit of rumble in this rumble at the sub bass, though not as much as I would prefer them to have. These roll off quite significantly faster than what I expect they should be, if that makes sense. Okay, and for the mid-range, the the E1K, there's really nothing to scoff about. Actually, there's one, except for the mids being a little bit thin. They have that kind of awkward, like weird, like stretching of the timbre in the mid range. I don't know how to explain this. It's actually quite peculiar because I don't know. I usually see that kind of straining in some V-shaped IMs, more V-shaped sounding IMs, or no, this is very nitpicking, and you would not notice if you're not actually trying to notice that, like every type of weakness there is in an IM. So yeah, rather than except of this IM having thinner mids, there's nothing really complain to it in the mid range, at least not for me. At the treble range, I think the treble extension department is a bit lacking for my taste. They're not unnaturally muted. It's like some other, like the E3K or like the E500. In my opinion, they are too muted. There's not enough treble. There is actually enough treble here, but not enough in the terms of extension to the air frequencies. And the treble proper, I would also prefer a bit more boost, probably at the 8K region. Yeah, that's probably it. Nothing much else at the treble though. So yeah. Tonality wise, they're very flat sounding. They're very good at being very flat. That's that's what they're supposed to do. Like it's okay, I guess. It's good. It's good. The timbre, I have quite a small problem with the timbre in the mid range, just like what I mentioned before, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, still sounds like a dynamic driver. It doesn't have that BA characteristics. It still have that DD characteristics. That's what I meant. So yeah, almost everything sounds very natural. You might feel that a bit of the vocal sounds a bit lacking out in the shout. It's a bit lacking at shout, about 3K region, 3 to 4K region. But that's really depending on your ear pinna shape, or like the insides of your ear. What's natural to you might be different with others. Yeah, though to me I feel that they are a bit veiled. They are a bit, not veiled though, they're a bit hazy in the mid-range, I guess that's the correct word. It's not the most open sound vocals in the mid-range. Yes, I guess that's it. It's not a huge problem, but if I'm going to nitpick the tonality, it's probably the thinner mid-range and that kind of veiled type of sound in the vocals right there. By soundstage and imaging, these are not a very soundstaging headphone. The imaging is also pretty standard for its price range. It's not very, you don't feel that this is like a very technical headphone, like, or a very expensive type of top of the line types of soundstage. Like, it's not grand, it's not huge, it's not very interesting if I could say. Something like the E3K and the E2K would give you that openness, that especially the E2K would give you that openness, that grandness of the music, while something like the E3K has the capabilities of separation that is unmatchable in this price range, definitely, which creates a vivid, more realistic type of soundstage and imaging, though I can't say the same for the E1K. And that's the number one killer for me from putting this above something like the E2K or the E3Ks, because I prefer a natural sounding IEMs rather than more fun and V-shaped sounding. But the technicality aspect is just too different, too far off, that I could not like this more than those. So yeah, in detail Treble is fine, I guess, but it's not on par with these two. You can't hear the subtle nuances when you listen to albums from Yoshihiro Kawa. You'll definitely notice the difference in micro detailings between the E1K and something like the E2K and E3Ks. That's an instant, really. You'll notice it from the beginning if you listen to for micro details quite a lot. You'll definitely hear the difference between these three IMs. They're definitely still very fast transient wise, so yeah, at least this got that very good. Yeah, I guess that's it for the review of the IM itself. Now for the comparisons. Comparing these with the E500 is these things are very similar in sound, in tuning, though the E500 is more accentuated in the bass region and less boosted, not less boost, is a bit lacking and muted at the treble area, at least for my preference and what I perceive as natural sounding. The technicality aspect is a bit like especially for something like separation and imaging, the E500 somehow edges a bit better than the E1000. So this is more a $10 more. I think it's $10 more expensive than the E500, but that's what's happening here. Everything sounds very similar, but the E500 have better bass, but not enough treble. That's the main difference, I guess, and a bit more technically adept than the E1000. The E2000 is a totally different signature, while the E1000 is a bit more linear, more thin sounding in the vocals, a bit more uncolored sound, probably you can say that. Or then the E2000 is a V-shaped sounding headphone with a much warmer sound in the mid-range. You'll get a bit more treble peak also here at the 2K at E2K, which is actually prefer more than the E1000. And the technicality prowess is also noticeably better on the E2K. The E3K is basically the same as the E2K, but with more bass and less treble. I would listen to the E3K more than the E1000 because of that difference in technicalities, because I am a sucker for technicalities. Against a Blano Freeze, they are very different in signature. Some would prefer the E1K, some would prefer the Blano Freeze, but if I would make a recommendation, I would first recommend the Blonde 03s before touching the E1K, because of a few reasons. One is the build. You can also use aftermarket cable for the BL03s. As shit as these cables are, you can actually replace them if they got fucked up. For the sound, it's a toss-up about what's your preference. If you want something more fun, something more exciting, something with sub bass, something more dynamic, then the Blonde 03 is definitely for you. The Blonde 03 still retains a very good mid-range though. It's not like a V-shape that's absolute bullshit V-shape. It's a very greatly tastefully tuned V-shape sounding. I think it's more of a neutral with boosted bass. That's what I'm looking for. It's a natural sounding with a boosted bass. The Tin T2s is just natural sound. Some might feel that the Tin T2 sounds a bit bright, but to me this is very, very good and very, very neutral. Comparing these two, Tin T2s is basically the E1000 with better technicalities, a bit better at the sub bass region, and has a bit more air frequencies at treble, and a tad more treble proper. So this is basically an upgrade to the E1K. So I would recommend much more recommend the Tin T2s rather than the E1K because of that reason. It's $20 more expensive. In my opinion, you just save your money and buy the Tin T2s instead. And yeah, they both have quality control issues though, but these you can actually replace the cable if it got fucked up. Usually with tin hi-fis, it's usually the MMCX cables that like got wrecked before everything else. The SSR, if you're looking solely for technicalities, the SSR is for you. But this is, they both are marketed for being neutral, for being a natural sounding IM. Yet only one succeeds in being actually passable as a potential reference IM, and that is the E1K. So if you're looking for a natural sound, E1K. But if you're not very sensitive to shout and you're looking for that technicality aspect, the SSR is probably quite a viable choice, but with quite a price jump also. Instead of the SSR, I would still prefer buying the Tin T2s if you're looking for that natural sound with more technicalities. Yeah. The ZS10 Pros, no. Actually, these are not as bad as I would like. As I would mention them in a lot of my reviews. These are actually pretty okay. But the problem I have with them is they are not good. They're okay for being a starter IM, but if you're experienced in everything else, this would just be disappointing, and I would like to spare you from that disappointment. So I'm not gonna recommend these over anything on this table, even this one, this little thing, this pinky nail size thing. The Sony MH755. This is the V-shape, a harmonish V-shape sounding IM. A bit boosted in the upper mid-range and in the sub-bass. Has a bit kind of dip, like straining timbre in the mid-range. You can actually hear the dip very much in the, like a lot in the MH755. Though if you're looking for a more fun sounding, it's like the Blondes, though this is a more V-shaped than the Blondes. Yeah, a bit these are also a bit similar in the technicality aspect, except for the soundstage, because this have a bit more soundstage than the E1000. At least in my testing, they do. So yeah, that's the review for the E1K. Hope you liked it. I know I sound a bit more tired this time because training and something else. And I redid this video like 3 times before, so yeah, I'm sorry if I sound like that. Don't forget to watch Jason's video. I'm gonna put him right here. Have a good day. Godspeed.